All right, everyone. I have a great guest today for you, Jeremy Resmer. He is out of South Carolina, and he actually invests in multiple different areas, and he focuses on direct-to-seller marketing. So he's got three main companies: Myrtle Beach Home Buyers, Middle Tennessee Home Buyers, and Value Land Home Buyers. So he works primarily in South Carolina and Tennessee for wholesaling properties, but he buys land countrywide. So all over the country, he's investing. He started back in 2016, which is actually the same year that I got started full time too. So that's cool that we get to share that. And primarily his focus is wholesaling and rentals as well, buying portfolios. So Jeremy, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, let's get started. Take us back to 2016. Why did you even start real estate investing? What got you prompted? What were you doing before that? And yeah, give us a little bit of background for you.
Oh, you might regret this one because there's opening a can of worms. So at the time, 2016, my wife and I had spent 2 years in the Congo. We had gone through a really difficult, probably a 5+ year adoption, where we ended up taking our biological son, moving to the Congo, adapting to, we had to live there. And then we had come back in 16. I had been working for a nonprofit for about 5.5 years, traveling all over. So I was able to go to Ethiopia, Guatemala, Haiti, all over. But while I was in Congo, I was able to kind of focus on the, Africa, that region, and
Mhm.
meet with my teams and visit our organization in those different locations. So when I came back, I had a larger family and also just was having some challenges in my marriage. My wife and I were just struggling, trying to reintegrate with a bigger family. Finances were an issue because the nonprofit it paid, but it didn't pay a lot. And now I'm thinking about other things and how to reintegrate into the States. And so with all of those things, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I generate additional income? I'd already have had some other online businesses and things I had done while I was in the Congo to supplement. I was doing day trading from the Congo, right? That's its own movie. Um, but so I decided, hey, the best way to do this is to find someone who's done it already and had success. I heard Tom Kroll on the Bigger Pockets podcast ringing the bell with all his energy, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got to do this. So I literally just searched him out and was like, you know what? I'm in. Talked to my wife. She's like, yeah, let's do it. Had to put 5K on a credit card and just
Wow.
said, hey, I'm going to take a lot of action. Didn't have a lot of money. Didn't have a lot other than just hustle and drive. And I just said, hey, there's no plan B here. I'm going to work a little bit until I can get a few things going, and I'm stepping away. And so it was do or die, burn the ships.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing so much of that because I don't think a lot of people share so much in detail, but I think it's a really important piece because, part of this podcast is for people to understand that they're not alone and they don't have these same, like many people have these same thoughts, but it's like taking action to get you to that step is really important. So that was great to hear your background. And man, so you like took action right away. You heard about it and you were like, all right, let's go. Like I want to get into this. And you started off with Tom Curl through, I think, is that Wholesaling Inc. that
Yeah.
back in the day? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too that's kind of crazy is before going to Congo, I had already done not I would say investing, but I had a property in Colorado that had converted to a rental, and I had been looking to really dive into this. My background, I prior to the nonprofit, I had done a lot. I've had several businesses. I had a denim company where I was manufacturing in Brazil and Turkey and traveling all over. So I had actually done a lot of different things prior to nonprofit that gave me a lot of the corporate and entrepreneurial um,
Yeah.
experience. And so I was not afraid of taking risk. In fact, one of the biggest risks I took was I had a HELOC, and that's how I funded this. My only savings was about 60K. So I took out a HELOC. My wife supported me, God bless her heart. And I basically paid myself with a portion of the HELOC money while trying to fund the business. And so we had our ups and downs. I wouldn't say that's for everybody. Obviously, there were a lot of things I could have
Yeah.
done differently. But at that time, like there weren't a million coaches. There weren't a ton of people doing this to the extent that there is now. There's all these
Hmm.
resources out there. So I was just like, hey, I'm just gonna this is my only option. I have to do it. And other people were successful, so I'll figure it out. That was my mentality. But, now I look at it and say, hey, yeah, are there people that can do it? Absolutely. But I also know a lot of people who can get started and also learn and still have their W-2 if they need
Hmm.
to. Again, different strokes for different folks, but that just option worked for me. And, fortunately, after a couple of years, I was able to kind of pay my HELOC back and make this a viable business. But it took a while, and there was a lot of ups and downs with my family and with finances, and like, dude, are we gonna have enough to pay the bills? But
Yeah.
like, that was it. And my wife believed in me, I believed in me, and was just like, hey, there's no looking back. So fortunately, here I am doing this, I don't know, 8, 9 years later. So
Yeah, seems like it worked out, and we'll talk more about that too. So, you got into it. You started to work with Tom. Tell us about like how did you find your first property? Did you start directly like an off-market properties, or did you find properties on the MLS? Because back in 2016, much easier to pick up deals in multiple different ways versus how challenging it is today. So, tell us kind of how you picked up your first deal and getting into direct-to-seller marketing.
So my first two deals were from direct mail. So those guys told me, "Hey, pull a list." They had a video, so watch the video, and they're like, "Hey, you're not going to have all the answers, but just take massive imperfect action." Right? Tom's famous for saying that. So I
Yep.
did it, and I actually had two really good deals. Both were inherited properties. They came from direct mail, and I put them under contract, and both properties I had the very next day. Both of them were 30K assignment fees. Here,
Wow.
here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. Both deals could not. They actually could not close, and both of them were estate issues. One of them was an estate issue. I've never seen an estate done this way. Literally, my attorney's like, "This is the worst estate I've ever seen. You can't the seller can't sell this house. It has to stay in the trust and go to a minor." And so this lady ended
Wow.
up losing it at the tax sale. It was impossible for her to sell it, so she had to lose it at the tax sale. So that's my first
Wow.
deal that didn't work out, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be a huge success from day one. Well, so that, and then the second one was a title issue that the deal literally just it couldn't close. And in all my years, those two were my two first deals I had under contract. Now I look at it and I'm like, if two deals don't close for us, period, in a given year,
Yeah.
that's like we don't have many that fall out, and usually we can get something done. And in this situation, we couldn't. So I actually went and said, hey, I'm going to go invest in SEO. I chose that over PPC and thinking I've got $60,000 coming in. And so I went
Oh
and
man. Yeah.
invested in 12 months at $2,500 a month,
Oh.
and both of those deals couldn't close.
Yeah.
So anyways, that again, making mistakes, right? Not knowing better, trying to spend money before I had money in the bank. But how I actually got my first deal was off of Craigslist. I was just scouring. I found someone that was looking to sell a property. They had probably 6 or 7 other people that couldn't get the deal done. So yeah, we just got really, really creative. I built really great rapport with this seller, and it was right. Man, I wish I still owned this property, but it was on Shelby Avenue, right by the Nissan Stadium where the Tennessee Titans play.
Okay. Yeah.
And I bought that one, and again made every mistake in the book. I didn't know it was a historical property when I bought it. I own the property. I was trying to assign it, but an agent says, "Hey, I just want to let you know that's historical property. Were you aware?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Yeah, so you might have some issues with doing what you think you're going to do." And
Yes.
again, so I didn't know any of this stuff. Then I started
Wow.
making phone calls. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to put a second story on it. I'm going to push it out to the
Yeah.
back." It had this really cool backyard, and the oh, what do you call it? Like the historical society said, basically,
Yeah. You
yeah,
can't do
you
that.
can't change the footprint. And in fact, if
Yeah.
you want to change the colors, you need our approval. And I'm like,
Yes.
wait, but this house is a dump. They're like, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It's
Yep.
historic.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're
so I
giving me
went through
like
the whole
flashbacks
process.
to my issues with historic home too. Oh, it was a nightmare, but we made
Yeah,
it. We
it
made it
was
through. But it's yeah.
so I went through everything. I made literally every mistake on the book in the books. I was like, well, shoot, I'm gonna just buy this thing, and then I'm gonna put some cosmetic work into it, and I'll sell it for a lot more. Long story short, after it was all said and done, I probably put like $2,500 into it, and I made 14,000 net. I'm like, hey, you know what? I made every mistake in the book, and I still made $14,000. If I can do that from a deal over Craigslist, that really, I mean, I had no business being in, but we still made it work. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can do this, and that
Yeah.
gave me enough confidence.
That's awesome. Man, what a wild ride from the first three deals you had, two of them not closing, one of them being historic. And I know, like from experience, historic side, because I was trying to tear it down and build a new home, and they're like, "You're trying to tear this down? Yeah, you got to wait. You got to like talk to historic
Yep.
society. You have to." Oh, that was such a nightmare. I remember that.
Yep.
I remember going to the building department with my permits and like trying to get my permits signed, and they told me that, and I was just like flabbergasted. Oh, it killed me.
Yep.
All right, so you got your first deal through Craigslist, but you started with direct mail. Were you
Yep.
still doing direct mail consistently, or did you like hold off on that and start kind of shifting gears because it was still costing you money doing direct mail and you needed to slow down on the kind of the cash burn? So you did the Craigslist?
Well, I actually was like, well, shoot. It's unfortunate that these direct mail deals didn't work, but I'm like, I need leads coming in. If I have no leads, so I have to spend money. I have to invest money, right, in my marketing.
Yep.
So I had all this money going out every month from SEO, which wasn't producing. But my direct mail was generating calls. So I got into this weird vicious cycle of, hey, I am getting calls, I'm going on appointments, and my first few deals were actually flips. So again, I made a lot of mistakes. I held on to properties. I wasn't getting cash in, but once I did, I'd get a little bit here. So I'd get like 30,000 plus my initial 20 back. So now I've got that
Mm-hmm.
50 again. So I actually started out flipping. I was awful at wholesaling, or I was not confident, or a mix of both. And what ended up happening was it took me doing enough flips where I'm like, dude, this is adult daycare. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
literally the last straw where I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to focus on wholesaling and I'm going to learn it is when I had three subs lined up for a property and they had to go in order. And the first sub finished up and he told me, hey, I'll be here tomorrow at 7 in the morning. So of course, 7 in the morning comes. Hey, what's going on, man? Right? 7:30, 8. Finally at 10 o'clock, he calls me or I call him. He picks up the phone. He's like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, you tell me. I'm like, we're waiting on you. We've got two subs that are in line waiting for you to get the job done. He's like, oh, man, that ain't going to work. I'm in Memphis. I'm like, Memphis? You told me last night you were going to be here. So I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm like, I am going to figure out wholesaling. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to figure out how do I have someone else manage my flips? And so it was at that point where I realized like I can't do this anymore because I've got three young kids and I'm leaving at 5:30 in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. I don't see them. I'm coming home trying to do all the other stuff. And so it got to a point where I'm like, hey, I have to build a business where I'm not, the solopreneur, where I'm not
Yeah.
doing everything because it was killing me. It was like, this is not even a well-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to wholesale and I got to figure out how to consistently assign properties and build a team. And so that's what my next mission was. And so I did direct mail, found a couple of deals, actually got a couple of land deals. By mistake, that's how I got into
Mm-hmm.
land. Was I didn't know what the
Yep.
heck I was doing. But direct mail early on was the best for me. And then PPC again was like the next leap of faith of like, holy crap, like I'm going to spend $4,000 on PPC. And I didn't know what the results were going to be. And, those were still the early days relative to what they are now. There wasn't the competition. But I was averaging about 2 deals a month in the Nashville market for about 3 to 3,500.
So
Um,
how long did it take you to get to that point? Because 2016, you started to get a couple deals, but how long did it take you to scale up? And how much marketing were you doing to get to that scale? Because
yeah.
I think it's important too for people, you were on a budget when you started out and you were getting paid, but you were doing renovations. So the renovations do take time from close to close. You get your money back. So just give us some like timeline so we have a good understanding of like how long it took you to get to the scale of where you were back then, because I know you're at even a way bigger scale now today, but tell us how long it took you to get to that 2 deals a month.
Yeah, so that really happened. So 16 is when I kind of got started, and it was June of 16. I really started focusing on this. Like I took the course, I took some action, but it was really 2017 where like everything was in this.
Yeah.
It took me about 2 years. In 2019, between the flipping and the SEO didn't work, so I was already skeptical of investing in something
Hmm.
else. But the difference was SEO is a long-term play versus
Yes.
PPC, I should say. But I didn't know that at the time, right?
Yeah.
Nobody told me that. And so I was just, cutting my teeth, trying to flip properties, trying to take calls, trying to uh, basically go on appointments and make offers. But what I found out was when I was doing all those things and trying to be a one-man show, I was sending direct mail and I wasn't following up. And then I'd get a week
Yeah.
behind, then I'd get 2 weeks
Hmm.
behind. Then all of a
Oh
sudden I'm
man.
like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm just wasting my I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I supposed to do? And I literally got to a point where I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't call people back. Like I couldn't like so unless I answered the phone right then and there, it was just like I wasn't gonna follow up with people. Then I
Yep.
got nervous. Dude, it was the craziest thing. I'm
Dude,
like, dude, I'm spending.
I was at the same point at one time, and I was like, "What am I doing?" So I feel your pain, man. Yeah, that's it's stressful because you're spending so much
So
money in that marketing, and you're
yeah,
not calling them back.
yeah. So what ended up happening was in 2019, I hired an assistant, and I was like, someone who can let's call them a I don't know, just a resourceful, kind of diverse skill set, right? They can go get my mail, they could answer phone calls, they could post Craigslist ads, they could do all the little things. And
Hmm.
so I was really kind of nervous, but I'm like, I got to do something. So pulled the trigger, and that person took a load off of my shoulders and allowed me to now focus on, okay, how do I generate revenue? How do I answer those calls? How do I do the things? And so it was at that point where invested in a CRM, so got Podio and just started to build that out. Again, still didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But at that point, I brought in an acquisition guy in the Nashville market. So if I was now able to take the calls, set up the appointments, I kind of trained this guy. He was already an agent, so already had some understanding. And we kind of worked together, and I was still doing some of the appointments. He was doing some of the appointments. He was able to list some properties. But basically that allowed me to go from, doing a few flips a year to now we're
Hmm.
getting to the 20s of properties. So he's now like, I can go on vacation if I need to, and he can still go on appointments. And so now I had a little bit of margin. And so now I was dangerous because I had the marketing mind for it. And I could put all the pieces together. But when you're
Yeah.
out and about, managing crews and going and getting materials for them, and you're answering calls, oh, I got to go on this appointment, and then you're coming home and you got your kids, and then you're got your CRM that you're trying to manage. It's like
Yeah.
it's just too much. You have no
It
margin.
is. Yeah.
So that's where at that point I'm like, okay, let's figure out one piece at a time. What's the most important? Have to get leads. Now that I can get leads and I can answer those phone calls, now I can direct someone to go on those appointments, or
Yep.
we can tag team those together. And so it was really 2019 and 2020 that the business just absolutely exploded because I had the margin. We focused
Hmm.
on revenue, right? Tom always says keep revenue in first place. And so for me, it was like, okay, in order to have a life and a lifestyle, that's ultimately what I wanted. I needed to bring people in who could take tasks off my plate, but also generate more revenue. And so that's where we really focused. It was direct mail, PPC, and then we tried SEO again in Nashville and had really good success. So those three
Oh
channels
wow.
were kind of where we started.
So that's, I have a couple of questions for you, but the first one is I completely agree with you. Like tackle one task first, right? How do we generate leads? Get really good at that, and then maybe you can backfill and get somebody else in that. I know a huge challenge for myself and a lot of people that are trying to scale or hire their first person. They get really nervous because they're like, well, I'm not making enough for myself and somebody else, but I know I don't have the time to do everything because I'm burning out. So, what was that catalyst that got you to hire somebody, and how did you do that? Did you just pay them hourly, or did you do like more of a kind of commission style hire?
So that was hourly. My assistant could commit to 30 hours. She was still going to school at the time. So it actually worked perfect because, I knew that um, I could fill her 30 hours, or I thought I could.
Hmm.
And it actually worked out really good because there were times where, if I didn't have things to do, she could always focus more on school or whatever. And so it actually worked out fantastic. Um, just being able to pay hourly, and then if there were any bonuses or anything else, I would pay
Hmm.
when those things were earned, or when we closed more deals, or whatever. And so um, ultimately, I had heard people say, other investors say, hey, when I made that investment, right, because it's an investment in an assistant, it's going to free you up. You're going to more than double the amount of revenue. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's a big belief
Yeah.
when I'm betting it all. And
Right.
so I did that, and that first year, I think it came out to, I paid her like 30,000 maybe, or
Yep.
20 some thousand with the number of hours. I think I paid her $15 an hour and then some bonuses. Um, I was able to generate more than 120,000 addition of more revenue, incremental revenue over and above. So she paid for herself multiple
Yeah.
times over. And then the very next year, as we continued to build out people on our team, that's when we really blew up.
Yeah.
So it was like 2000, late 2019, 2020, where I bought a house. I'm like, you know what? If I really want to do this, I need to stop going on appointments. I need to stop doing all the things. I want to be a business owner. And so I bought a house sight unseen in South Carolina from the Nashville area. And I worked with a wholesaler. We bought the property. He connected me with someone who could do the rehab. Well, that guy today is now my business partner and
Oh
has
wow.
been basically ever since. And so
Yeah.
literally we went from $0 to almost 2 million in assignment fees in 24 months
That's
in a new
amazing.
market.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
what I learned in the Nashville market was, um, hey, I have to generate leads from day one, and we tried different channels. But I knew that this guy, he was from up north, from Massachusetts. He's really good talker, really, really. I didn't know this at the time, but he was perfect because one of his background, or one of his traits, is he's influential, and so he influences people, and he has that knack, and he's very direct. Plus, he had construction experience, about 25 years. So he knew exactly what the costs were going to be. So I just basically said on my first appointment, hey, man, I'm sending you on this appointment. I'm not even telling you what to do. You go and tell me what you would offer. We were $2,000 off from where he was and where I was. I was
Wow.
$2,000 higher. So
That's
when
amazing.
we put that
Yeah.
property under contract, and at that point I knew, like, this is the guy. And so having someone that knows how to negotiate, knows what the cost of the rehab is going to be. I mean, that's half your battle right there, right? Because people are notorious for going on appointments and underestimating
Yep.
the repair budget, and
Oh,
then
absolutely.
inflating the ARV. And
Yep.
so we did the opposite with him. He was like, "Hey man, I never want to lose any of your money. So I'm going to be overly conservative on what it's going to cost to get it done." And then, our ARVs, we were conservative there. And so, we started right out, and, had no buyers list, had no nothing. And we're just like, "Hey, I know that we can build this thing from scratch." I let him do his thing, but I had to generate leads. And so I took a
Hmm.
very different approach going into a new market. Um, the idea was, hey, I told him, I said, I'm going to make you the face of this company. Nobody even has to know that I exist or that I'm even involved in this business. People are going to know who you are. And so we started doing SEO, PPC, cold calling. Cold calling had mixed results. And I'm like, yeah, that's not really going to create a brand for us. And so then we went to radio, which had incredible effectiveness at the time because we were early in that game. And then we
Oh,
went to TV, and then Facebook ads, where we were able to use those TV ads. So like we were everywhere. And so we went into that new market, and my goal was, how do we saturate that market as quickly as possible?
mhm.
And so like I said, we went in 24 months, we went from 0 to 2 million in assignment fees, which was totally different than my experience in Nashville, where it took me a couple of years, really, two
Right.
and a half years to kind of cut my teeth and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and just
Hmm.
applied those principles. And so we went after inbound marketing, branding. We said, hey, brand is really important, but we have to be able
Yep.
to tie that to revenue. And so, I mean, I actually transitioned from a focus in the Nashville market where I went in 2019 in 11 months. I went from 0 rentals to 50 rentals. I bought 2 multifamily. And once I got positioned strongly in South Carolina, I actually took everything and said, I'm gonna focus exclusively. In 12 months' time, I transitioned a business that did over $1 million in Nashville to how do I focus almost exclusively on South Carolina? And that's what we were able to do. And not only did it sustain itself, but we grew from I think the first year we did 28 transactions to over 40 transactions to 80. We doubled it. And so right now, you know, we're about last year we did 93 transactions in 2023. This year we're right around the same pace. I mean, we'll see how things
Yep.
go with you know, some of these probate and harder to close deals. But so typically, you know, we're going to be 80 to 90 deals per year, focusing primarily in that market. And we haven't changed many things up in the last 2 years as far as our marketing
So
goes. So
you basically you learned from what you did in Tennessee market and through direct to seller and the process, and over those challenging years of like growing it, now you have the benefit of having a team, right? And again, I don't think people really truly understand how big a team or other people
yeah,
can help you out. Your ability to focus, but not just focus on those revenue generating tasks will
yeah,
absolutely. And I found the same thing. Once I was so scared to hire my first person in the office, but once I did, I couldn't believe the ability that it gave me to really focus and scale and grow the company. It was amazing because I remember I was like, man, I really can't afford to pay myself what I need and this other person. But I knew I just had to do it to get out of the day to day.
yep.
So now you transitioned, you got your team, you went to a new market, and you knew what to do, and you had the team to support you to do that. So that's absolutely amazing to be able to grow that quickly in a new market. So from there, like, are you still like, tell us a little bit more in depth on your process. We know you do a bunch of different like direct to seller techniques and
Yep.
inbound marketing, but how did it evolve? Like, where does it stand today? Like, tell us just on the different ways that you're marketing and give us a little bit of information or in depth into what you're doing for each one, what the cadence looks like, stuff like that.
Yeah. So today in my primary market in South Carolina, we do direct mail. That's my only, let's call it unbranded channel. There's a lot of investors who, again, there's 2 philosophies, right? There's the folks that say, hey, I'm going to brand everything. I'm going to send
Yep.
people to my website. They're going to either, you know, call me or they'll go to my site. I This is my one channel where I am a staunch believer in going the opposite direction and not
Interesting.
providing it. And I can tell you why, but
Yeah.
with all of my other channels, so I've got radio, which I have not changed my ad since 2020, and we have such a killer ad; it still generates deals for us.
Really.
I'm on 5 stations in South Carolina. I don't even know if I should tell people what I pay, but I pay under 2,000 a month for
That's
5
amazing.
stations.
Wow.
Yep. And so that's effective for us. We still do TV. We do connected TV, so streaming, right? So if I have a list of you know, people that are pre-foreclosure, I can literally find them and deliver them an ad when they're streaming. And I can do an
Really?
ad. I can do an ad, a tailored ad that's specific to them. Hey, your world feels upside down, right? I have the guy. It's kind of a cheesy commercial, but my
Yeah.
partner, he's literally upside down, and then he flips in the middle of it, and basically we say, hey, we can help you out,
Oh,
essentially.
that's amazing. I didn't know you could do that directed with TV.
Oh yeah, so it's again, it's streaming, but you know, we have that channel.
What
We developed
platforms?
it.
Yeah, what platforms?
So Investor CTV. And we actually use TV Scientific. That's the backbone of our platform. But yeah,
Okay.
so when we did that, we didn't change any marketing. We actually doubled from 48 to 86 deals that very first year, because now
Okay.
we knew exactly the people we were going to hit, right? So we were already doing direct mail. We already were pulling those lists. And so now it's another backdoor into somebody's
Right.
house,
So you were
right? So
you had the same list and you were hitting them from different approaches.
different angles.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So now, okay, so we've got SEO. SEO has been phenomenal for
Yep.
us. That's been our number one channel, believe it or not, this year. I have an awesome
That's
SEO
great.
guy. So I'm not doing any PPC. We've tried it. I've tried multiple companies. We just haven't had great success with it in our market. Now, if I did it in Nashville, I had success there previously, but right now I'm really focusing on South Carolina. And so we're not doing PPC. What else are we doing? I'm not doing Facebook ads. I was doing that for a while. We've kind of stopped there. We've really honed in. Direct mail has been phenomenal for us. And our online channels have been great. So people find us, we rank really high. We have TV. We're driving everybody to our site for the online, and we do really, really well. Now, the direct mail, back to that philosophy. So some guys are like, hey, I'm gonna put my website on my direct mail. What happens is there's a lot of people who are trigger happy as far as leaving really bad reviews with the BBB and with Google.
Yep.
So we value those reviews, and so we actually don't want them to know who we are until they make that phone call and they have invested in us and we've invested in them and we know that they're serious. At that point, then we let them know who our company is specifically and what we're able to do and if it's a good fit or not. But there's a lot of people who they get mail from you and they just get ticked off and they go immediately online. And so we want to protect our BBB rating. We want to protect our Google reviews. And so we've worked really hard for that. So my philosophy is that's the lesson number one. And lesson number two also is because all of our other marketing channels are branded, direct mail is that one channel where we get them that postcard, we hit that mail piece. If they're even thinking about selling and they're like, yeah, I don't know if I should do it. Oh, let's just call and see. People see us and hear us on the radio and see us on TV, that if they see, hey, go to Myrtle Beach Home Buyers, right? That's our site, Myrtle Beach Home Buyers. If they go there, or if they see that, they may be like, oh, I already talked to these guys. Or, hey, I don't know. They're from up north. The guy on the radio is from Massachusetts. I don't want to, just weird things. People have weird,
Sure.
So my thought is, hey, send them something, give them no information. If they're considering selling their house, even if we've talked to them before, even if they're in our database, now they come back in. Now we're able to re-engage in that conversation. Hey, we saw this guy from before. We made an offer. Have we not followed up with that person? Oh, shoot. Well, now they just called the number. They're interested in selling again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now we re-engage. So that's just kind of our philosophy. Protect those reviews. That's really important. And then this is the only unbranded piece where we only allow them to call a specific phone number. So if it's probate, now I can track. Call from.
You have
probate.
tracking numbers. Yeah.
Yep. And my team all knows, hey, I got to take this one serious because hey, this is a probator. This is a pre-foreclosure. So. And we've really, really honed in the lists that work well for our business and our market. So, that to us has been really, really good because, again, we're doing so much branding elsewhere that I don't need people coming to my site. We're already driving them to our site. They're coming directly to us on the phone and we're able to work with them that way. So.
Yeah, I think that's a unique spin too, because most people, including myself, I always done branded direct mail. Because I want people to know who I am, what I do. But also, most people remember a brand or a logo more than they remember somebody's name. So, and direct mail was always my kind of top marketing, the way that I did inbound marketing. But you doing, TV and radio, you have those huge brand aspects that people are getting the branding side. That is a unique aspect that I never even thought about. If you're already doing large brand focused marketing, you might not need to do that for direct mail because, to your point, if they already saw you or already called you, they might not respond to your direct mail piece. I think that's a really great strategy. I really do.
Well, so that's the piece there where for us, it works good because a lot of people
Yes.
call back 6 months and a year later because they're like,
Mhm.
hey, we really don't know what this is about, but we got this postcard. And so now all of a sudden we're like, holy crap, like these people weren't ready back then. But, sometimes we have followed up and sometimes we
Yep.
realize, hey, we marked them dead or
Yeah.
they wanted to be removed or whatever. It wasn't a good fit. But I can't tell you how many times these mail pieces, or they come in direct mail sometimes, and we're able to then reconnect through TV or whatever.
Yep.
And again, it works both ways. But for me, like our focus is how do we saturate our market? And so because we feel like we've done a really good job with the bigger media, the mass stuff,
Yep.
direct mail is that one piece. It's the only one. Now, we don't do texting, we don't do cold calling. So
Mhm.
everything is inbound. Our only channel that we do unbranded is direct mail for the reasons that I mentioned to you. So
Have you ever done it branded?
yes.
Because I was
Yep.
wondering if you did like a branded piece and like three unbranded pieces, if you'd get any difference in responses, or not even necessarily the number of response rates, but just responses from people that haven't responded to you prior, just because they're seeing it in a different way or the connecting the dots or anything like that. But
Yep. So literally it was going to be a 6-month test. The results of this were so bad. They were so
wow,
bad because what happened was instead of people calling, they went direct to the website. And when they got to the website, like our site traffic went crazy. So now all of a sudden we're 3, 5, 10x our site traffic, and these people were not filling out forms. They were just
right,
trying to see what it was all about. And
right,
so literally we went from having, I don't know, over 100 calls from direct mail a week to we had under 20 calls.
wow,
And what we did is we went with a really nice postcard, a glossy. We were trying to tell a story. So we tested out multiple postcards. And literally within, oh my gosh, it was within 30 days, the response rates dropped off so much that my call team was like, hey, what's going on? Like we're not getting any calls. We're just sitting twiddling our thumbs. And then my acquisition managers were getting ticked off. And so what we did is we actually went back to our old postcards, very boring, very plain, totally unbranded. All of a sudden, boom, phones start ringing again. And my
yeah.
team made me promise that I would never do that again. I'm like, yeah, I mean, why would I?
Yeah, it's amazing that some markets, like the unbranded, very plain direct mail pieces, work really well. It's amazing to me.
Yep.
So we know where you are today. Can you give us a little bit of feedback on, like, if you were to do it again, like how would you get started? And also, actually, one thing I want to ask you: what lists are you marketing to for like direct mail? If you want to share that, or some of the lists.
Yeah. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, there's no secrets, there's execution, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so a couple of key points that I think are huge to our success as a company. Number one, everyone says the fortune's in the follow up, but most people don't follow up. Legitimately, I don't know
100%.
why, but they
It's
don't.
so true. It's so true. Yes.
Yeah. So what's crazy is I had a database, was using Podio, but wasn't using it effectively. I never had the follow up sequences.
Mm-hmm.
So once I built those in, our business exploded. So today I can tell you that every single year for the last 4 years, 80 to 90%, it's in that range, every single year comes from follow-up. Therefore, when we go on an appointment, sometimes we don't make an offer, or sometimes we do make an offer and it's a hard no.
Mm-hmm.
It's through that follow-up where it's 2 weeks or 2 months or even 2 years later, where they're getting automated follow-ups where there's no way that a single person could manage a full database, right? So
Yeah.
we have different sequences for different situations. We built that on our own. I know there's companies that provide that, but that's been a game changer for us. So
Yeah.
we don't do any emails. We just do the texting, warm leads, people that we
Yep.
had a relationship with, and then we do RVM. So those are the two things, and then we also do calling. Right, I've got callers who their
Yep.
job is follow up inbound, and so
What about on
that's
the
that.
list side?
So as far as the list go, man, I mean, this year, well, no, I take it back. The last 4 years, my favorite lists are always related to estate, pre-probate, probate, and inheritance. And so if you know how these lists go, right? Pre-probate is a bigger list. Some of them will make it to probate, and then some of them will make it to inheritance. And you could say, well, why don't you just get the pre-probate and nail them all, right? Well, because we also stack lists, and we also want to see what we do. This is why I love Envelo, right? So you guys have created an amazing tool, but we actually, when we pull that list, when someone goes from just being a new record that we're now calling to it's a contract. I just had one last week that they were on 4 different lists.
Yeah.
And so even if someone comes in off of let's just say it's vacant house, but I also see that they were on probate and pre-foreclosure. Well, now that I'm actually allocating a portion of that to those lists. We have we track all that in Envelo, your system.
Okay.
And then we pull that out and we look on a regular basis. Hey, where are leads coming from? Are they SEO? Are they TV? Are they? And so we're able to see how effective we are from each lead type, right? Because here's another thing. Someone might have been on a list, a probate list, but they came through TV. They didn't call my direct mail piece, but they came through TV. But we find out that they're in probate. Well, we're still saying that's from probate. So we're still wanting to reach out to them. We don't know if they're going to come through direct mail or TV or connected TV or some other channel or SEO. But the point is, we want to know what list those people are showing up on. And so that's how we hone in and refine our marketing constantly. And so any of the estate lists are great. They're fantastic. Pre-foreclosure is fantastic. Still good. Yeah. Pain in the butt to deal with. A lot of people that are going through really hard times. So you have to stay consistent. You got to follow up, and they're going to do crazy things. And like we got one last week where the guy wanted to close in 7 days. And we literally put under contract. We tried to tell him no. We're like, dude, why are you selling this house? Well, we put under contract for $25,000. Very next day, we had a buyer for $40,000. And the guy wanted to close in 7 days, and pre-foreclosure. And it was really a house that he honestly, in my opinion, he should have held on to it, but he just wanted to sell. So that was a direct mail pre-foreclosure. So the only other, I should say, we do cold calling. We only cold call one list. I have one caller in the Philippines. The rest of my team is all US based. That guy, he calls, believe it or not, with Skype. He told me for a year, Jeremy,
really?
I want to work for you. I'm going to call you. He called me for over a year. And I finally said, you're the best person I've ever seen at follow-up. Since you've been calling me for a year, I'm going to give you a job. I'm going to give you no tools, nothing. You're not going to have a CRM. I'm only going to get you the list and the phone numbers, and you're going to prove to me. And so this is his first year. He started for me in February. We've already got 6 deals. And he is cold calling through Skype.
Wow. Skype. So, that's Skype, old school.
It's old school. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is you don't need all the bells and whistles. What you need is the right people, the right seat in the bus. And so this guy, we're about to offer this guy or provide him with more tools, because now we want to provide him access to the database. We want to be able to do some of that texting and to be able to reach people faster. But my point is, those lists are really good. We also do the late mortgage list, which works well for us. Okay. That one it's pre-foreclosure, right? Anyone that's 60 days or later, because we're trying to hit them early before they have to make a quick decision. So we want them to be in contact with us. So that list works really well for us. Another one that I never hear anybody talk about, my preference would be to buy 10 houses from one seller if I could, rather than 10 houses from 10 sellers, right? There's a whole lot more work to close on 10 deals from 10 different sellers. So we started about 2.5 years ago. This has been one of our most effective lists. And it works really, really well in smaller or markets of 75 to 50,000 ish. There's a Godfather in every market who's been owning real estate, collecting houses for years and years. Okay. And so in these smaller markets, you don't have typically the sophisticated investors who could take down a whole portfolio. And so this is my secret. I've never heard anybody say this, but it's true in my business. We want to find those Godfathers who have been collecting properties for years and years, and they're just ready to cash out. They're willing to
Yep.
owner finance. They'll sell 30, 50, 100 properties. Our very first deal was a guy who was ready to cash out. We bought 12 properties from him for 485,000. And the rents we're collecting on the day that we closed were over 6,000.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
we put less than $10,000 in the
That's
renos on those
amazing.
12 units, and we refied those at like 785,000. So there are a lot of these investors too that own multiple properties. So I actually target 10 plus properties because that's how we found a 30-unit apartment building that we bought for $800,000. We have opportunities to make offers on larger portfolios, mobile home parks. Typically, if somebody owns 10 plus properties, they're a little bit sophisticated or they've been doing this for a while.
Right.
So it works really, really well. Small towns or maybe an hour outside of a major metro, there are the godfathers and godmothers. You want to get in touch with them. You want to find a way to reach them. And so my team knows automatically if that call comes in and they're motivated to sell one, we don't care. We don't care what they owe on it. We don't care their level of distress or no distress. Set the appointment. Our acquisition guys will find out all the other properties. Plus, we actually are able to check what other properties they own, right? So do they own 50 or 5? And so we do our research, and then our acquisition guys ask them, hey, I want to buy all your properties. Are you looking to sell? Or, and so this is how we buy portfolios, and we're getting a 1.5%. That's our minimum threshold. So if something is selling for or going to rent for $1,000, we need to make 1.5%. And that's all in. That's after renovations and all that. So, we're buying properties really cheap, and, we're buying sub twos. We're doing all those things, but it's in these smaller markets where we're finding the best deals.
That's great. I love that strategy. I don't think
there's no competition. Nobody.
I haven't really heard too many people say that. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great tidbit, man. So I know we're getting to the end of our time, but just to kind of recap and providing any advice, do you have any advice for people getting started in real estate investing or even direct to seller marketing?
Yeah. So my advice is this: with no leads, you have no business, right? So I hear people talk about having to track all of your marketing per channel. That's great. That's great, especially starting out. A great way to do that for me, if I was to go into a new market, first thing I would do is I would do direct mail. Now you could say, oh, it's there's too many people that are doing that. It's oversaturated. Well, here's the thing. The calls will come in. You getting a deal is going to be based on your ability to follow up. Okay. Because we get calls all the time. Investors get calls all the time where people aren't motivated today. But if you can follow up with them, then you're going to have the ability to close deals. So I love direct mail because it keeps the phones ringing. That's my number one source to get phone calls, truly, and to get appointments. Now, does TV work great? Yeah, those things work great. But going into a new market, I would invest in the niche lists, because you don't need to send out 10,000 or 20,000 mail pieces a month. But what you do need to do is find motivation, and you need to get the phones ringing and be able to track that. So for me personally, it's go after the niche lists. Any of those estate lists, the pre-foreclosure, the late mortgage, those ones are great to get started in. And you're not going to spend an arm and a leg. You're not going to send out 10,000 mail pieces. You might send out 200 to 500 pieces a week. And you may not get a ton of phone calls, but the people that call you, they're going to be the right people. So that's the number one thing. And then I always tell people, once you get profitable with a channel, now you invest in another channel, right? As long as you can service those leads well. So I love SEO right now. Again, that's kind of a longer term play if you have a good provider. I love TV. That's fantastic. And PPC. Again, you're going to have to figure out what works best for your market. I also do PPL too. I should say that. I would pick one channel, get profitable, figure out a way to then invest in the next channel, and then the next channel. Now, at some point, you're going to have to be able to say, hey, I got to bring in people that can field those calls. If you can no longer do it, you're getting too many calls, or you can't do the calls and the acquisition. So now it's about, okay, how do I now hire that first person? Maybe for me, it would be an assistant. Bring that person in. It's never going to be the right time. You're never going to have the money. You're going to have
That
a level of faith, right?
that is true. I felt the same exact way. Never going to be the best time.
So it's like you got to have that channel. But the other thing too is like get that CRM. Ask somebody who knows how to build out that CRM or has success, and make sure you have the automated follow-ups, because right there, like even if you're only doing 500 mail pieces or 250 mail pieces a week, eventually 250, and then you've got 250 and 250, the phone's going to ring. You're going to have old people calling. You're going to have
Yep.
people that called from the prior week or from 2 months ago that
Yeah, it's
finally are ready to
momentum. Yeah.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
it
it's
starts
amazing.
to snowball, and so you have to have a system that can now follow up with those people when you're not available, and then from there, as you start to become profitable,
Yeah.
now you have to invest in those people. So I'm probably oversimplifying it, sounding easy, but like that's
No, I think
the
I think that is
progression.
the important. I think that is the important part. Is everybody thinks that they have to know or learn or do everything at once, and then they don't do anything. It's get good at one thing, get profitable, and then move on. Don't have to focus on everything. Even getting into real estate investing, you don't need to know how to close a deal when you're just starting marketing or talking to people. Like, go in process, because if you need to learn everything at once, you're never going to get started. There's always going to be like, oh, but I need to know this. I don't know how to do this or this. So just number one thing is get started.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
cool.
Yep.
So Jeremy, what's the best way that people, if they want to reach out to you and get a hold of you, that they can learn more about you?
Yeah, I would just say find me on Facebook, because I'm always, so I don't spend a lot of time posting on Facebook, but I'm constantly looking at different groups. I'm checking my messages. I'm messaging other people. I mean, there's a lot of activity in the Facebook
Yeah.
group, so I'm just constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to see what people are saying. I'm trying to see where people are having success. So I would say, hey, find me on Facebook. And then I'll reach out to you, or I can message you, or you can call me. I mean, I love hopping on phone calls with newer investors or people that just want to talk shop. So I love, for me, lead gen is the thing. I love helping newer investors who are like, hey man, like if you were me, or in a new market, what would you do? I'm like, well, funny you should ask. When I went to a new market, here's what I did.
Yeah.
But my main focus really is, honestly, is that lead gen with a focus on like inbound and branding.
Hmm.
Create a brand, because that's something that's sellable. I've had
Yeah.
someone reach out to me and say, hey, whenever you're ready to sell, I'm ready to buy it, but it's really hard to compete with you in this market because I know you're spending more, you're recognizable. So to hear that was really great. It was a little bit of a compliment, but I would just tell people that are getting started or trying to move into a new market, yes, you have to get revenue today. You have to get the phones ringing, but also be thinking about the long term, because your brand is important, because
Hmm.
eventually now those people start coming to you, and that marketing goes from, you think you're spending $1 and getting $2 in return. But the reality is, when people know that, hey, if I'm going to sell my house fast or cash or without a realtor, like in our market, we feel like that's us, and we're spending more money. Now we're actually spending less, but we're being smart because we know what works for us. But people are finding us in all these different places, so we know that they're going to come to us. We're that
Yeah.
we're that company. So that's what I would say is, like, have a 24 to 36 month outlook, as far as, yeah, you need to make a revenue today, but you're trying to build a brand over the next 2 years, so
Hmm.
that when people do pick up the phone or they do search online, they're searching your company name. That's
Right.
that's what we aim for. So,
Yeah.
that's some advice that I would tell people is, yes, you need to make a profit today, but be thinking about the next 2 years. What do you want your brand to be? How many reviews do you have? When people are searching for you,
Yeah.
are you showing up? Because that's going to generate a lot more revenue. That creates that momentum.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool. All right, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Everybody, if you want to reach out to Jeremy, find him on Facebook. And you can talk shop, and he can give you some advice on some lead gen. But thank you so much. That was awesome. You shared some great tidbits. I love your strategy on finding those grandfathers or grandmothers, I guess, in smaller markets. That's really cool. I haven't heard a lot of people say that before. So thank you for that. And thanks very much, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
You got it.